Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Trimerit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today our guest is Ellen Choi. Ellen is co-founder of Aiwyn. And Aiwyn is a practice automation platform that has a few different functions to it: client engagement automation, billing automation, payment automation, collection automation. You know what? I probably shouldn't even go into it. Let's welcome Ellen to the show, and we'll have her kind of explain Aiwyn and her background itself. So, Ellen, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Thanks, Randy, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I would love to explain all of those automations that you just listed, that we do automation. So I think we definitely got that part right.
Yes.
But, yes. So we'd love to tell you a little bit more about my background and how we started Aiwyn. And I think that will give you kind of just more context of why we're doing what we're doing today. So my background, just really quick, I studied data science, just big data, like basically large complex regressions before it was machine learning and AI. But really, I think that was just a trajectory. So did a lot of that in school, and then worked at Google's finance team doing technology and automation projects, and also wearing a lot of different hats, data science, business analytics, HR, finance. And we use, since we're being recorded, I'm not going to say the name of the system that we use for our ERP, but let's just say that we did not like using it. It was very clunky, very old, so what really ended up happening was a lot of just very manual, repetitive processes, lots of Excel files being passed around, very insecure, very, very, non-compliant, things happening. And we're talking about Google, which is a technology leader in our society. So, from my perspective, I just basically, thought, why do I need to deal with all of this crappy software when there's so much great, consumer software out there? So for me, being on this founder's journey, it's really trying to solve a problem that I experienced personally and having very deep empathy for the back office, worker that have to deal with kind of some of these legacy tooling, things that don't talk to each other, fragmented, which I think, Randy, having spent a lot of time in the space, you're probably familiar with a lot of sort of the dynamics of what I'm discussing, that exists.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So after that, I got my MBA, came back out, worked actually went into product management at a mobile gaming startup. So actually learned a lot about digital engagement and, just kind of consumer experiences. And one of the things that I've just been really interested in doing is really marrying kind of that, experience of cutting edge, consumer grade experiences with powerful, fully functional, high ROI software for the enterprise. So before I started another company building B2B SaaS software for HR. Sold that company, started this company with my co-founders, kind of with the same thesis of, can we bring, modern, delightful, very highly, greatly experiential, tooling to a space that has not seen a lot of innovation, quite frankly, in a lot of the software that, we're using today from the CPA firm's perspective. So kind of started, Aiwyn with kind of the thesis, and my co-founder, Justin, he is a serial entrepreneur as well, along with Pat. And basically, when they sold their last company, they had accountants that were doing really great work. But 3 months after the work was done, they got an invoice for the work, and it was like, what? Where did this invoice come from?
Right.
Why didn't they bill us at the time? So that really just drove home the point. The fact that revenue is the lifeblood of a company and a firm, for right? So it's like, how is it possible that, this process is not being run tightly as it should be? So we just started digging and just, from our perspective, we're a very customer first, customer centric, company. So then started doing lots of interviews and really our earliest customers, CPA firms pointed us the revenue cycle, just saying, hey, the billing is such a it's such a hot mess. The clients, it's so cumbersome for them to pay. We don't know how much AR is outstanding, really. It's like a very fragmented, painful process. So then, we realized there's so much opportunity to really partner with CPA firms and, help them on a problem that is just so core to thriving and growing, their business. So it started, Aiwyn kind of with kind of that thesis, and started with the payments and collections automation, and then kind of started to build other parts on top of the existing tooling. And one of our really like superpowers that we developed very early on is we developed really tight integrations with kind of all sorts of different tools that CPAs use today, starting out with the practice management system. So we spent a lot of time just making sure we can have, read access to the core data so we can provide an experience where the client can pay in 2 clicks on mobile instead of 10 different steps that they might have to take with the system, that's not integrated. So like we have that sort of automation and modernized experience along every single step of sort of the different workflow cycles that we support. And we're just kind of building more and more on top of the automation that we're discussing that you kindly listed at the beginning. So really excited about the potential for that. So yeah, that's a little overview of Aiwyn.
Nice. I mean, things that you said there, I find so intriguing, from just the 10 clicks to 2 clicks and automation and saving time, and which is something that I talk about a lot. And what I find often, it just seems like when people go or look at automation or look at change in technology, that they get scared. There's this, I think it's our brains just see this short-term, and I'm going to say pain, but it's not really pain, but the short-term pain, and it really is, okay, we're going to make changes. Oh no, pain, short-term pain, I can't deal with that. And they can't see past that to all the long-term gain that's going to be there, all the savings they're going to have down the road, getting paid quicker, like you just said. I'm probably jumping way further ahead in the conversation than normal, but when you just said that, I was thinking of that. So is that something you see, that there is resistance to change in the technology and automation, and how do you deal with that?
Yes, no, that's a great question. Something that we think about constantly, day in and day out, because you're absolutely right. Really, like, one of the biggest sort of like objections that we hear is actually that like your software is great. Like I get the ROI, like it's a matter of when, not if. Like we're gonna implement it someday, just not today, not
Right.
today, right? Exactly. So from our perspective, it's really like trying to help them understand, yes, like, in the short term, this is really painful. And there's also a lot of it is just very like emotional, right? And mental. And it's just like having the mindset to like be able to say, I'm going to change, and not everything's going to go exactly the way that I expect, because nothing ever does in life, but we're going to come out at the other end successful. And, this is going to be like a game changer for us. So from our perspective, we actually coach, the firms, our contacts, our main contacts in terms of the change management, of like the rest of the organization, have to roll it out, have to actually have messaging and framing. And one of the things that we actually also coach them on is let's actually make it less scary, by having very small wins, iterate, actually build, right? Like build sort of like the positive experience and momentum, and then iterate again on top of that, on top of that. And that's one of the reasons, actually main reasons why we started out by implementing our payment solution for our customers, because that has the lightest lift, and it's also very high ROI and doesn't require as much change management as some of the other high ROI, automation out there. But that is kind of like a wedge into showcasing, hey, look, like dip your toe and it's a great experience. And that's now like put the bottom half of your body in, and it's going to be maybe a little bit painful, but like you already experienced a little bit and it wasn't that bad, right? So absolutely, like coaching them through that is a really key part of our experience in working with firms. And the last point I would say on that is we also make our implementation really simple, and we've realized like just kind of giving everyone like the easy button to kind of like do every single step, from the beginning in terms of the change management helps a great deal, because when you make it super, super concrete with, milestones and project management and task, sort of like very concretely outlined, like it then becomes something that's like nebulous to something that's a lot more like concrete. And that's just something that's more certain and concrete is a lot easier to change with and deal with than something that is just kind of like, out there.
Yeah, I love the baby steps. Let's start with the small. Let's see, okay, see how little that pain was and see how big the gain was and see and I love that you're kind of going through the psychology of change when you're doing this. That's pretty cool. I haven't heard people, I'm sure they do, but I haven't heard people talk about that before. And there's so many things firms could do more efficiently that they just avoid. And if you can help them make that change, I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the thing is we're not selling a technology, we're selling a solution to a pain point, and we never want to lose sight of that. Technology is absolutely the enabler. Like we need our product and technology to actually like solve the problem. But like the solving the problem requires a couple of other major facets, here, which is also making sure that the organization is set up to actually like receive the automation, well, or scale and things like that, and really helping our firms and coaching them through kind of that transformation, the digital transformation as well, alongside with technology and using technology as a wedge for them for that organizational transformation. Because at the end of the day, that's just as critical as being able to use new technologies for automation.
Yep. And then your software, your system, your solution, I don't know if this is the right question, but standalone, or is there other systems within the firm that it's going to supplement or work with and to gather data and do with these other, how is it integrate, I guess, with other systems?
Yeah, so our system integrates really usually like it requires another system, like another practice management system for, us to really like build on top of and enhance and accelerate. And that's something that we recognize really early on as well, which is firms have spent a lot of investment and time into building out their existing practice management system configurations, whether it's custom dev work or the change management required is really great. So from our perspective, we want to, once again, we're solving the problem. We're not introducing technology for the sake of introducing, cool technology, but it's like, how do we actually make this useful for you? And really the answer so far has been, you don't need to change your process. We can actually help you enhance with technology what you already have. Like, and you can actually go very far. So that's been our orientation so far. Also because, as you know, there's lots of tooling in the space that don't talk to each other, and just that fragmentation of technology and process, like workflow that are siloed, that's like a really big problem. And we don't want to necessarily add to that noise. So from our perspective, we want to be the unifier, a platform that actually can ingest like the other systems, workflows, and relevant information, and be able to turn, something cohesive that firms can use that combines different types of data sources, or be able to automate, from one system to the other. So from our perspective, from day one, we've been very oriented towards how do we work really well, with other systems that the firms already have today, so they can get the most value out of all the systems they have.
Got it. Okay. And then from your platform in general, is there like an ideal candidate, or what's the normal firm that works with you? Is there a size? Is there a service? I'm assuming everybody can use it, but is there an ideal candidate, I guess?
Yeah, what we find is that, our solution solves kind of a few major, different variants of like pain points. Like one of them is aging AR. So we find that an accounting firm that has massive, like AR problem, like that firm is a great candidate for getting a lot of value out of our system, because we actually help to double the speed of cash flow and really cut down the AR and like make collections, much faster. So firms that have that problem, just great candidates for great fits for, finding value from our solution. Lots of times when firms are trying to modernize their client experience, and, for many firms, that is a very big topic in terms of, hey, lots of our clients are just like, it's more and more upcoming, like millennials are making decisions, younger and younger clients, we have to keep up. Like, how can we actually make sure we can compete well? Then like our modern, very like, very delightful, frictionless client experience, like that really addresses that. So like firms that have like strategic imperatives around that, like also a really great fit. Capacity is just a universal challenge in our industry, but in particular, firms where maybe people are retiring that have very specific, domain knowledge on collections and payments and like billing processes and things like that. Those firms are really interested in using our solution because they can actually get that tribal knowledge into a technology form. So it's not lost and it's not human dependent. And, many times if those types of resource like talent is kind of they're retiring or it's really difficult to find, then we're helping them to solve that problem. So we really like when we talk to CPA firms that we really try to understand like what are your biggest hair on fire problems and do those problems fit into something that we can help you like solve for. And those three buckets I would say are kind of the main ones.
Okay, that's nice. There's a couple things you just said in there, a couple of words, a couple key phrases. One, just talking about the profession in general, you mentioned capacity issues. Two, you were talking about showing the value of what you bring to them. I'm going to mesh those together and talk about just billing in general, because you are a billing collections platform and everything. And I know you and I have talked a little bit before about this, but you've seen a change towards value billing, and I think that solves a lot. This is my personal opinion, but I think selling hours is one of the worst things we do as a profession. I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you have thoughts on the move to value billing or even subscription pricing? Is that something that you think about as a platform that deals with that?
Absolutely. So really like what we do, like our solution, we automate, streamline, digitize the revenue cycle. Like we really help them improve, accelerate, grow their revenue. And I think value-based pricing and can you actually charge more for the work that you're doing, which is almost certainly yes for our customers, like that is a very direct improvement to the top line. So this is something that we've actually, we knew from day one that we want to help firms kind of go there and support them in the journey as an industry. And it's been really exciting to see the progress, that now we're starting to see the kind of the leading edge firms that are like doing value-based pricing, for new clients, we're going to put them on subscription. We're going to, template-size like our services and like put a price on it. And, I've seen kind of some of these processes play out kind of at a very nascent stage for a subset of our industry, which is really exciting. So for us, we think about that a lot. We think about how can we use technology and AI to really help our firms solve for that problem. And the other thing about our team is that we've always thought AI is a great force multiplier, and that's something that we've sprinkled in and baked in from the beginning of our product development. So a lot of this, generative AI and ChatGPT also very exciting, specifically for value billing. There's a lot of work that we could be doing and using kind of a lot of these interesting AI techniques to help firms better understand, yes, you should be billing 20% more, this service, that you did. Don't just slap a 10%, COLA, like you can actually double the price. So that's something that we're productizing and building into our technology today. And, from our perspective, like, it's just really exciting to see. And really like the end game that I think makes sense for our industry is really like switching the idea of productivity from unit of time to unit of outcome or output, right? And like, that's just kind of been years and years in making. But I think really the first step is to say, we're going to price things not based on time, but we're going to price it based on output or outcome, right? And then the next step is, and I think this step is, I think it will happen, and some of the firms have adopted it, is actually say, we're never going to track time anymore because it is not necessary for us to be able to measure the profitability and productivity, of our employees. And I think for me, that's really, really exciting because just think about how much time and effort, our industry spends on like time entry and how effective that is, which is not super effective, from I think that's probably not a very controversial statement. So from my perspective, it's like, how can we help firms do that? And that's really interesting for us.
Yeah, it is. It's the more and more I talk about pricing and billing and hourly, because I do a lot of presentations on mental health and burnout, and I think selling hours is one of the worst culprits when it comes to why burnout is an issue for so many
Agree.
people in this profession. And so I like the fact that you're helping firms while you're out there make this change.
Absolutely.
You mentioned AI as we're going, ChatGPT as we're going. In your name, Aiwyn is actually AI,
Yes.
WYN. So AI is in there. I assume AI is something that you thought about from the start when you're doing this. But the AI is, I think, probably really forwarded a lot since you even named the firm, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting because yes, it has forwarded a lot, but a lot of it is also very much, I think the public sort of like conception has caught up with the actual technology that's been going behind the scenes.
Okay.
So from our perspective, so Randy, I live in Silicon Valley, I live in San Francisco, so I've seen like, all the crazy sort of like hype cycle going up, all the investments, that are going into startups, and it's just really, really exciting times right now here, in Silicon Valley, just a lot of like technology sort of like breakthroughs. And I think these are the things that we don't necessarily see like in the industry, but we probably feel it. And I actually really, Joe Woodard from your last podcast said something that really resonated with me, which was that, his point was that you don't have to be an expert, as a CPA firm in AI because AI is just going to be embedded in like all the software and all the tooling that you use. So really like the thing that you should do is understand like those tooling and those products. And you don't need to actually understand very specifically, but it's basically what's like the outcome and what's like the impact of the AI in the tooling that you use today. And that really resonated because I see a lot of the foundation work that's been happening in Silicon Valley today. A lot of the technology behind the foundation models are LLMs or a lot of enterprise AI startups and generative AI that are building like development. Like there's just this whole like infrastructure of being able to have startups take very easy advantage of all the latest AI breakthroughs, kind of the way that, Joe was describing. So we can just all have AI just sprinkled in through all of the software and the technology that we use. And I actually ultimately think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be way beyond, Chat GPT, which is, I think, kind of like the main buzz. But really like Chat GPT, it's like a symbol, I think, of the capability, and that capability will just be embedded into, all the tooling that we use over time. And from our perspective, that's what we're investigating, as an AI company. How do we actually take advantage all the latest breakthroughs and technologies into embedded into our software? So the firms don't even have to know that it's AI, but it's just so much better. Like the value-based pricing, the recommendations and the predictive insights, like it's 10x, it's like actually like something that wasn't able before, regardless of AI or not.
Yeah, I assume AI is just going to give us insights into that pricing model that makes sense. We can look at profitability without tracking hours. We can see, yeah, I didn't even think about that part, but that's pretty cool. All right.
Exactly.
I see a good future for our profession. And I see that fear factor not having to be large. I know people fear what's going on. How am I going to integrate this? You're not going to have to because Ellen just told us it's going to be sprinkled in. It's
Yes.
just going to be there. We're going to be using it. And that's the key for us.
It's
All
gonna be
right.
just magic behind the scenes.
It's like just magic dust sprinkled into all of our software, and there it goes, and it
Exactly.
happens, and we're more efficient. All right.
Exactly.
So that was all great information. I love to see what you're doing. I love the pricing talk and the magic dust of AI going into these softwares. Before I ask you a final few questions, do you want to kind of give us a wrap on what you see, talk about whatever, your product automation in general, what the future is, or just, give us a little wrap on what your passions are with technology, I guess.
Yeah, so I think we definitely covered a lot of it, which is how do we really like help to really improve the lives of, our customers, right? In terms of how do we make them more efficient, more effective? How do we make them less frustrated, at the end of the day? Like just like how do we have a very delightful, cohesive experience in which like they can actually do the work that they want to be doing in a very straightforward, easy way, and how do we help them grow revenues? So that's actually at a very high level something that it's super exciting for us, and we wake up every single day and really motivated to work on that. And I think going back to this, train of thought on AI, one of the things that we think very deeply about is how do we integrate that AI into, our software product? And one of the papers that from MIT Review actually that we read that informed our thinking was kind of all about human AI partnership and reinforcement learning and mutual learning. And I think that's like a really interesting model for us to think about, especially because, as you know, there's a lot of sort of like fear, is it going to replace our jobs? Like, are we going to have to, is it a zero-sum game? And I think there's definitely many, many concerns that we have to work out, short, mid, long term as an industry and really society, as a whole. But the model that we think makes sense is that humans and AI, they learn from each other and like it's a virtuous circle, so like you're training the AI, but the AI is also able to generate answers and suggestions and things that a human may not have thought of, where it's like actually teaching the human something else, and it's able to then so it's like a very interactive, very virtuous circle loop of mutual learning that helps to improve essentially the performance of each. And I think that's something that we really want to make sure we can embed in a way that is very productive for our customers.
Nice. I like that. I like the way you say it, because it's us together. We're both human AI working together, teaching each other, learning from each other, and helping us to be what you said there, being more productive. Because the bottom line is that's everything. Being more productive, working less, making more, avoiding burnout. I can't have a podcast without me saying burnout. Avoiding burnout
absolutely
is important. All right. Well, that was great. I have a couple last questions I'd like to ask you, and I didn't warn you ahead of time, so we'll see if you're prepared for this or not. But
okay.
One question I ask everybody is, all right, this is great. I love this information. I love your passion about what you're doing and everything. But I assume you have outside of work passions as well.
Yeah.
What do you like to do when you're not working on the Aiwyn information?
Well, as a founder, we're always working 24/7 as in the background, but we do other things outside of work. So love spending time with my friends and family. I have a niece and a nephew who are like in the elementary school age, so they're just in a super fun age. So love spending time with them. I love hiking, just getting out in nature. So beginning of this year, actually, I pulled out a map of the U.S. and I thought I'm traveling so much this year. Let me actually see how many states have I not been to. So basically, I realized there are 17 states that I have not been to yet. So one of my goals this year is to try to hit more states that I have not visited yet. So right now, I'm just looking for us to sign a customer in North or South Dakota so I can go visit the customer and cross off that state off my list.
Nice. Has Illinois been on your list already? I assume it has.
Yes, I have been to Illinois many times. It's a very lovely, lovely state, as you know.
Yep, that's where I'm at. And we're having a conference. The plan is that we will see you at our conference, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yes, I am too.
All right. And then the final question, if people want to find out more about you or Aiwyn, or where would they get more information?
Yeah, I mean, our website's always a great initial resource, aiwyn.ai. Our LinkedIn is always also a really great resource. We're quite active there, and we post a lot on what we're doing, where we're going, what we're thinking, fun posts, professional posts, like the entire gamut. So I would definitely encourage anyone that's interested in Aiwyn to follow us on LinkedIn. Anyone can just shoot me an email as well. So, Ellen Choi at aiwyn.ai. So yeah.
There you go. Well, I had the pleasure of meeting you recently. We've had a handful of conversations. I always enjoy them, so I really appreciate you being on the show.
Awesome. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation as well.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. Professionalproductions.net